Hi, hello everyone. I'm Justin. This is Koopa. Welcome to Koopa's Corner. Today we're going to talk about the WWE and the year that they had in 2024. We're going to recap all the PLEs. We're going to rank all the PLEs. We're going to talk about a couple of breakout superstars, some superstars that had just absolute phenomenal years, or a phenomenal year this year. And so this is the WWE's year in review. And it's something that I've been wanting to do for a little while. I actually spent the past maybe week and a half to 2 weeks binging every single WWE PLE in 2024, just so that it would be fresh on the mind. And I actually took a few notes, so pardon me if I look at my phone, just so I can do a recap without missing anything, really. So we're going to start off, like I said, just with a quick recap. First off, it was the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble started off with the Women's Royal match. A few notable things here. Naomi's return, Jade Cargill's debut. I think Jordynne Grace's appearance was huge. It was absolutely huge. She had a couple of great moments there. Bayley going from number 3 to winning. At the time, it felt like the right winner, right? And also her continuing to shout at Michael Cole when she's a heel. Her feud with Michael Cole is wonderful. Honestly, Bayley started off the year super, super strong with this Royal Rumble win. And unfortunately, it was mostly downhill from there. But yeah, that was a huge moment. Tiffany Stratton, her debut in the Royal Rumble, she was still an NXT superstar, so that still is technically a surprise appearance there. Roxanne Perez as well, another NXT superstar in the Rumble. So there was a lot of great moments. Chelsea Green just being an absolute ragdoll for all the abuse in the Royal Rumble there. Liv Morgan made her return at the Royal Rumble. And so starting off the year strong and continuing to get strong. We'll talk about Liv Morgan in a little while. After that, there was the Fatal 4-Way match for the world title. Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton versus AJ Styles versus LA Knight. Yeah. And there was the U.S. title match between Logan Paul, who was the champion at the time, versus Kevin Owens. And then the men's Royal Rumble match and a few notable things in that match. It was Andrade's return. Braun Breaker, his debut from NXT. Pat McAfee's entrance into the Rumble for a pretty funny spot. I know a lot of people weren't a fan. I liked it. I think that the Rumble is a perfect opportunity to have a mix of entertainment, a mix of superstars top to bottom, giving a little bit of spotlight where you can. The Royal Rumble is my personal favorite match of the year, every year, usually. And I'm so excited for this upcoming Royal Rumble, but we'll talk about that when it gets a little bit closer. R-Truth appearing in both the men's and the women's Rumble. In the same spot, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that. He entered in the same spot for the women's Rumble, then was confused that there were no men, and then he entered in the same number for the men's Rumble. So he literally, just played it off like he didn't know. And I thought that was a nice little touch that made a big difference. From the Royal Rumble, we went all the way to Perth, Australia for the Elimination Chamber. The Elimination Chamber started off with the Women's Chamber match, which was won by Becky Lynch. Tiffany Stratton was so over by the Elimination Chamber. She was, they were going nuts for Tiffany Stratton. The tag titles were on the line when the Judgment Day defended against the New Catch Republic. You had the Grayson Waller effect with Cody and Seth. You had the men's chamber match, which was won by Drew McIntyre as he worked his way to the Rumble. There was also the start of his rivalry with CM Punk there. Well, I guess technically it started at the Rumble when he injured CM Punk, but this was really the start of their feud proper, because that was more of an accident. And finally, the main event, Rhea Ripley defended her title against Nia Jax. Moving on, WrestleMania 40. I know this was a 2-night event, a big night, so we're going to do this one real quick. This was the first event with the Prime logo in the ring. It was disgusting. It's so distracting. I've noticed it every single event since. I don't know if you guys have gotten used to it. I hate it. That's a huge, -1 for WrestleMania 40 there. But Rhea Ripley started the event off night 1 against Becky Lynch. There was the 6-pack ladder match for the tag titles. The Judgment Day versus DIY versus Awesome Truth versus A-Town Down Under versus the New Day versus the New Catch Republic. An absolute wild ladder match. Like, you want ladder matches to be crazy, and this was crazy. Also, it being tag teams, it doubled the amount of superstars, doubled the amount of people diving and taking hits and falling through tables. Always love a huge multi-man ladder match. They split the tag team titles here too as well. They were undisputed tag team titles before, and then you went one to Raw, one to SmackDown. That was huge for the WWE this year, in trying to elevate the tag divisions on both shows. Santos Escobar and Dirty Dom versus Rey and Andrade. You had Jimmy versus Jay, which was Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi versus Damage Control. Gunther defending his Intercontinental title against Sami Zayn, which he lost. And then the huge tag match, Cody and Seth versus The Rock and Roman. You also had celebrity appearances throughout the night. Vanessa Hudgens was in the crowd. Lil Wayne was there for Jey Uso's entrance. Like, there was a few celebrity appearances. Jason Kelsey, his appearance in the Rey Mysterio match. Right, he came out with the luchador mask. So WrestleMania, as always, just a massive, massive event that they went all out for. And night 2 was no different. Stephanie McMahon made a little surprise appearance to start the night. Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre. Then the cash-in from Damian Priest. Second time ever at WrestleMania. Absolutely huge moment. And it furthered CM Punk and Drew McIntyre's rivalry, which just one of the best rivalries of the year. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits versus the Final Testament in a Philadelphia street fight. Right? Snoop Dogg was on commentary. Bubba Ray Dudley was the referee. It was kind of random, but it was kind of fun and it worked. LA Knight versus AJ Styles. Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton. Io Sky versus Bayley. And Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, when Cody Rhodes was finally able to finish the story. We went to Backlash after that. Backlash France. Kevin Owens and Randy Orton versus Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga in a street fight. Bayley defended her newly won women's championship against Naomi and Tiffany Stratton in a triple threat match. Damian Priest defended his newly won world title against Jey Uso. The Kabuki Warriors defended their tag titles against Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. And Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. Backlash was really the crowd was so loud. There was that scene where the camera was just shaking on AJ Styles, and during Jey Uso's entrance as well, the camera was just shaking. So Backlash went all out. The crowd was absolutely wild, and it's all people really talked about from the event, which on one hand is great, and on the other hand, it is unfortunate, right? If the one thing that you're taking away from an event is the crowd and not the matches or not the storylines, then it's a trade-off. It's a great thing, but it's also not such a great thing. So, I don't know. Take that as you will. We went to King and Queen of the Ring after that. King and Queen of the Ring was Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan, Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable versus Bronson Reed, Nia Jax versus Lyra Valkyria in the Queen of the Ring finals. The King of the Ring finals was Gunther versus Randy Orton, and then Cody Rhodes defended his world title against Logan Paul. I think what really benefited King of the Ring this year was that both the King and Queen of the Ring finals matches weren't just for a crown and a bad gimmick that they had to carry around for the next year. There were very legitimate stakes to it, in that it earned the winner of both tournaments a championship opportunity at SummerSlam coming up. So, sort of like Money in the Bank, it really had long-term implications for the WWE, and that goes a very long way in elevating an event. Real stakes, and King and Queen of the Ring had them this year. From there, we went to Clash in the Castle in Scotland. Clash in the Castle started with an I Quit match between Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles. Cody Rhodes continued to attack AJ Styles with the steel steps after the bell. Cody Rhodes probably should be a heel. This is not the first time he's done that this year. We'll revisit that. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill defended their tag titles in a fatal four-way against, or a triple threat actually, triple threat against Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark, And then Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, there were new tag team champions here. They gave them to the hometown girls, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Sami Zayn defended his Intercontinental Championship against Chad Gable. Bayley versus Piper Niven. Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre. And another CM Punk run in here to keep their feud alive while CM Punk healed from his injury. Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank ladder match. Jey Uso, Andrade, LA Knight, Chad Gable, Carmelo Hayes, and Drew McIntyre, who won and then cashed in the same night. Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker. Trish Stratus was there. John Cena announces his retirement. Absolutely huge. Damian Priest versus Seth Rollins. And again, more CM Punk involvement after Drew cashes in. It cost Seth Rollins, which will come into play, I'm sure, at some point in their feud going forward. The women's Money in the Bank ladder match. And then it was Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and Jacob Fatu versus Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens in a 6-man tag match. And this is where Tonga Loa really fucked up that low blow. Everyone knows that moment. SummerSlam. SummerSlam was huge. Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. And this is where Dirty Dom turned on Rhea and went with Liv and cost Rhea really her chance at winning when he threw the chair in, right? So that was a huge betrayal, huge moment, really furthered that feud along. Let's see. Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker again. Logan Paul versus LA Knight. Bayley versus Nia Jax. Punk versus McIntyre with Seth Rollins as the special guest referee. So this was after Punk healed in his first of 3 big matches with Drew McIntyre this year. And then there was Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa with Roman Reigns' return at the end. Bash in Berlin. Cody versus Owens. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn versus Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. Punk versus McIntyre in a strap match. Liv and Dom versus Rhea and Damian. And Gunther versus Randy Orton. Bash in Berlin is the first video that I started making content for. So if you want a more in-depth review of this one or anyone afterwards, you can check the channel. Because there are some reviews of each individual event after that. So I'm going to be very quick for these next few. Bad Blood. Bad Blood was the Hell in a Cell, Punk and McIntyre. Nia Jax versus Bayley. Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley with Dom up in a shark cage. And then Cody and Roman teamed up versus Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. And The Rock made a little surprise appearance after that. Crown Jewel. Solo Fatu and Tama Tonga versus Roman, Jimmy, and Jay. Sami Zayn comes out afterwards. A little miscommunication. Kicks Roman right in the face. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair versus Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson versus Damage Control versus Chelsea Green and Piper Niven in a fatal 4-way match. Seth Rollins versus Big Bronson Reed. The Crown Jewel Championship. Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax. Champion versus champion. Winner became the first ever Crown Jewel champion. Another huge moment for Liv. LA Knight versus Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade for the United States Championship. And then Gunther versus Cody Rhodes for the Men's Crown Jewel Championship. Survivor Series. It was the Women's War Games match. LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Braun Breaker versus Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser. Gunther versus Damian Priest. And then Civil War Games. Bloodline versus Bloodline. Finally, Saturday night's main event. Saturday night's main event had Jesse the Body Ventura back. Sami Zayn versus Drew McIntyre. Liv Morgan versus Io Sky. Gunther versus Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. The first ever Women's United States Championship was crowned, and that was Chelsea Green versus Mia Yim. And Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens. So that was the entire year in recap for WWE PLEs. That was just a very quick run through of the entire match cards for each and every event, right? Some big moments. I very much did not get into the meat and potatoes of some of the earlier ones, even though we could have kept talking and kept talking and kept talking. but I was trying to keep it brief, right? And some of the later ones, I have videos going more in depth over them, so I was very quick there. But I wanted to recap all of those just to kind of refresh it in your minds as well. And I'm going to talk about the events a little bit more now as I rank them. I want to rank each event this year, and then I want to talk about kind of the events as a whole. And I want to talk about some particular superstars after that, guys. So as I'm going through and ranking them, let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any particular ranking and what your favorite event was and what your favorite match was. I'm not breaking down a match of the year here, but I just gave you a run through of all the matches this year. Was there one that jumped out at you? Let me know in the comments. So we're going to start off ranking the PLEs this year. And I want to start off at the very bottom. So that was, let's see, how many was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 events if we're counting Saturday night's main event. Which, for this video, I am. Whether you do or you're not. I don't know. But yeah, we'll start at the bottom. I think worst pay-per-view of the year, or our premium live event of the year. Very bottom. Crown Jewel. Not the biggest fan of the event. Honestly, not. I don't know what to tell you. I think I have a little bit more in depth on the channel already, but Crown Jewel, the women's Fatal 4-Way tag match was decent. It was really fun to see Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend. Those are NXT superstars, and I think that they really showed up and they really made the most of their opportunity there. I don't, again, know too much about NXT. I don't watch NXT often, so seeing them come up to the main roster, it really is some good exposure, and I think they got a bright future, a lot of potential. So we'll see where they go from there. I think next up, Bad Blood. The Hell in a Cell match was phenomenal. But the rest of the card from there was meh. Cody teaming up with Roman has propelled a lot of stories going forward. Honestly, much more than I probably should have. But The Rock's appearance was sort of meaningless. He didn't really do anything, and it is what it is. Going up from there, I have King and Queen of the Ring. Now, again, I'm not the biggest fan of these Saudi Arabia shows, honestly. A lot of times they don't feel important. They don't feel like they have a lot of stakes. This year they tried. They tried very much. Crown Jewel, the 2 Crown Jewel championships. But we all know that they're meaningless, right? They don't keep those titles with them on TV every week. They stayed in Saudi Arabia. The titles were big. The titles were gaudy. And it doesn't mean anything. Aside from, from now on, Liv Morgan and Cody Rhodes, as they make their entrances, it'll give the announcers a chance to be like, oh, by the way, first ever Crown Jewel champion. Like, it's just a little boost there. King and Queen of the Ring had much bigger stakes, much more realistic stakes, with the winners of those tournaments getting championship opportunities down the road. So that elevates that a little bit. Up from there, Clash at the Castle. Clash at the Castle was a fun show. And by the way, just because I'm ranking something low doesn't mean it was bad by any means. I don't think that the WWE had a single bad event this year. It was a hell of a year for them. But I don't think those events were quite as good as the events coming forward. Just to clear that up. But yeah, Clash at the Castle, they really focused on Scottish heritage. Drew McIntyre with a big opportunity, Piper Niven with a big opportunity, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn with a big opportunity. This very much felt like a transitional pay-per-view, though, and the stakes just weren't as high. Even though it was a fun event, I don't think it was a very meaningful event. Saturday night's main event, again, ton of fun. Really hit all those nostalgia notes. Jesse the Body, 40 years away from the company, and man, did he sound great. He didn't miss a beat. Seeing legends like Greg the Hammer Valentine, Tito Santana, Coco Beware, it was really, really fun. So I really enjoyed Saturday night's main event, but not as much as Backlash. Backlash in France, in Lyon, France. Um, the wild crowd really elevated this because, again, coming right off the tail of WrestleMania, it just, the stakes weren't as high, right? All of the new champions from WrestleMania, they weren't going to lose their titles, right? You don't expect that immediately afterwards. So these kind of had the vibe of matches for the sake of matches, right? It was the start of some rivalries, not necessarily these big moments with these big high stakes. So that brought it down a little bit, and the crowd brought it up a little bit. We find it kind of solidly in the middle of the pack. From there, Survivor Series. Survivor Series, yeah. The War Games matches in particular, I think, have really done a lot to elevate this event in my eyes, my personal opinion. I'm having a lot of fun with this gimmick. It's not a gimmick that's been overexposed, but I do think they need to be careful of that going forward. But yeah, something like Hell in a Cell doesn't always mean as much because there was the annual Hell in a Cell event, right? It worked this year. It worked with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, but it's just, it is what it is. It's been done so many times that it just doesn't mean as much as it used to. That is not the case with the War Games matches. So Survivor Series, really great. Bash in Berlin is the next one that I have. I loved Bash in Berlin. I don't know why, but Bash in Berlin was so much fun. I think it was just a really solid card, top to bottom, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a good event. I really enjoyed Bash in Berlin. From there, Elimination Chamber in Perth, Australia. Now this, again, we're getting near the top now, guys. We're top 5. Number 5 is Elimination Chamber. And the crowd was wild. They hadn't had a PLE in Australia in so long. Nia Jax versus Rhea Ripley in the main event. I mean, Rhea Ripley was just absolutely just the most over superstar in the entire world at that time. And Perth made that loud and clear. Also, Perth really made Tiffany Stratton feel like she was over. It's that moment when I don't know if she had fully come up to the main roster yet or not, right? Because she was still NXT at the Royal Rumble. I don't remember when her call-up became official, right? But she was in the women's Elimination Chamber match, and the crowd was nuts for her, man. They were nuts. She felt like a superstar. In that moment, you're looking at Tiffany Stratton going, she is the damn future of this company. And it is absolutely clear why, right? She's phenomenal. Going from there, number 4, Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank, I think, is always pretty high on my personal list because Money in the Bank, the 2 ladder matches, they feel different enough from each other, right? They do a really good job of making the men's and the women's feel different enough, but they both have a little bit of chaotic energy. And there's, you can kind of go in going, hey, Tiffany Stratton should win this, but there's a realistic possibility that she's not, right? There are multiple superstars in that match who could walk away with the briefcase, and the same thing for the men's. You're like, yeah, maybe Drew McIntyre should win. But going into the event, that's not a lock, and you don't know that, right? Sometimes you're like, okay, I know at Backlash, for example, Cody Rhodes is not losing his title. On the very next PLE after he won it after WrestleMania, it's not going to happen. The stakes are low. But Money in the Bank, realistically, there are a couple of good options. Even if you don't think every single superstar in that match realistically could walk away with the briefcase, there are a couple of good, realistic options. And they're pretty good about that consistently year after year after year, which is why I really like the event. The matches are chaotic, the matches are fun, and they have long-lasting stakes. The Money in the Bank briefcase changes careers. It's been the defining of Tiffany Stratton's career since then. Drew McIntyre made a huge moment out of it as well, and it really helped further his story with CM Punk costing him. And every year, this briefcase has big, massive stakes. We saw it at WrestleMania with Damian Priest cashing in as well. Changed the main event scene. So those huge, huge stakes really elevate this event. So this is top 4 for me, number 4. So let's move on to number 3, in my opinion, was SummerSlam. SummerSlam was another huge event. We saw quite a few title changes. Yeah, they really tried to make SummerSlam feel WrestleMania adjacent this year. And you can tell that they're going to keep doing that. Next year, it's going to 2 nights, the same as WrestleMania, which is absolutely huge. And I don't think that they really missed a beat with SummerSlam this year. It was a great, wonderful event. Number 2, WrestleMania 40, right? Just shy of that number 1 spot. I think most people would probably put this as their number 1. I mean, it's a massive event. It doesn't get bigger than WrestleMania. Huge stakes. Very satisfying moments. I think a couple things for me was the fact that it was the first event with the Prime logo. I noticed that every single event since. It's very distracting. I do not like that. The ring itself is sacred. And say what you will about Vince, he made sure that the WWE brand was more important than any of its sponsors or any of its advertisers. And he would not sully the ring with all these different logos. And I haven't liked that. I think the Cody Rhodes storyline was a little bit convoluted going into WrestleMania, right? If you wanted to do Rock versus Roman, then why did Cody win the Rumble in the first place? Right? And then he just gives it away to The Rock. That didn't make any sense either. And then they course corrected. But I don't think that was really ever the way it was supposed to go, right? They only course corrected because of fan backlash. So building to that was a bit odd. And then you have the Bloodline Rules match in the main event, which it was just an anything goes match. There was no disqualification. Like, they didn't really do anything to make Bloodline Rules stand out or different or special. And then they had all these surprise legends appear to help Cody Rhodes with no rhyme or reason. John Cena comes out. Okay, sure, whatever. The Undertaker? What the hell does The Undertaker have to do with Cody Rhodes? So I think that you sacrifice some coherent storytelling in order to make a moment, because Cody Rhodes finishing the story was a moment, right? It absolutely was a huge, huge moment. And, some people liked it, some people didn't like it, but there's no denying how big that is. And that's going to be one of those moments that lasts in highlight reels for years and years and years to come. But I just think to make the moment, you sacrificed a little bit of the storytelling through the match. So take that as it is, right? But I think the event as a whole was phenomenal. Just a few minor nitpicks here or there, and that stopped it from being in the number 1 spot. And then the number 1 spot, for me, was the Royal Rumble. I love the Royal Rumble. It's my favorite match of the year. It always has been. It probably always will be. I like that you don't have to win to get spotlight in the Royal Rumble match. I like that because there are 30 superstars, some of them get a spotlight that don't normally get a spotlight, right? If you look back at some of the most memorable Rumble matches throughout the years, you have your Kofi Kingston spots, right? You have your Maven eliminating The Undertaker. You have your Too Cool dancing in 2000. You have your Shawn Michaels with 1 foot hitting the ground. I mean, ultimately he did win and he was a huge star, right? But you have moments from other superstars just who get a chance at some spotlight here, and it's nice to see, and it's nice to see some of these superstars interacting with each other when you normally wouldn't see that, right? You get surprise returns every year from going back. This year was a couple of NXT stars, but going back, we've had announcers, we've had legends. The Hurricane was a surprise within the past few years, right? You have guys like Kane, who made a career out of Rumble appearances, right? I mean, Kane had an absolute legendary career otherwise, but Kane was synonymous with the Royal Rumble the same way Kofi Kingston was synonymous with the Royal Rumble. It's just so many fun moments of Road Dogg or Jonathan Coachman just hugging the bottom rope the whole time. Superstars like Hornswoggle hiding under the ring. There are so many fun little moments. Titus O'Neil sliding in for the greatest Royal Rumble. There are so many great moments that make the Royal Rumble special. And it's the ability to get spotlight on these other superstars who normally don't get it that make it special. And this year in particular, the Royal Rumble felt special. Both superstars who won, them, Bayley and Cody Rhodes, felt like they deserved to win. It felt like it was logical for their storytelling. It led to very good feuds going into WrestleMania. Sometimes you walk away from a Royal Rumble going, really? I'm looking at you, 2014, when Daniel Bryan didn't win, but Batista did. That was the wrong choice. And ultimately, they course-corrected, right? But we're not talking about 2014. We're talking about 2024. In 2024, they made the right choice. The surprises with the NXT superstars was phenomenal. Jordan Grace from TNA, absolutely phenomenal surprise appearance. The Royal Rumble was my personal favorite event of the year. It's my number one spot. And now, guys, I want to just mention a few superstars that had a just absolute hell of a year, right? And I think I want to talk about 5 superstars here. And I'm going to start off with Braun Breaker. He started the year in NXT, right? He comes from NXT, makes a surprise appearance in the Rumble. And he gets called up to the main roster. And man, does he come out ready, willing, and able to make a name for himself. He's got the pedigree, right? He's, related to the Steiners. But he's explosive and hard-hitting in the ring. And he has a presence about him, and he gives it 110%. He hits the ropes faster than anyone. And, I mean, this guy just comes in, and he's just bam, bam, just hard-hitting. And he stands out, and his matches feel special because of it. And he went from being an NXT superstar to a 2-time Intercontinental Champion in 2024. So I think he really elevated himself drastically, right? There are a lot of superstars who had a great year. But I'm talking about people in this top 5 who really elevated themselves. And I think that's what makes it a breakout year for them, and that's what makes it special. And Braun Breaker really elevated himself this year. He's got a bright, bright future ahead of him, right? I want to talk about Liv Morgan. I want to talk about Tiffany Stratton. I want to talk about Big Bronson Reed, right? These are my next 3 superstars. I don't know if I said I was going to do a top 5, but I think I'm going to leave it at 4, right? Breaker. We're going to talk about Stratton next. Stratton was very similar to Braun Breaker. She was an NXT superstar to start the year. She came to the main roster. She competed in the Elimination Chamber match. She won the Money in the Bank briefcase. Tiffany Stratton has just so much going for her. Her character is really easy to hate. It's also really easy to sympathize for. She's athletic. She really brings it in the ring as well. She's a former gymnast. She's incredibly good looking. She's got everything going for her. And she has elevated herself to being Miss Money in the Bank, which is almost a guarantee that she will be a world champion sometime in 2025. She has elevated herself significantly. I want to talk about Big Bronson Reed. Big Bronson Reed also really took every opportunity this year that was given to him, and he made the most of it. His feud with Seth Rollins made him seem like an absolute monster. His involvement in the Civil War games with the New Bloodline. He wanted to go viral, and damn did he do it, jumping off the top of the cage there. Bronson Reed is somebody who, coming into 2024, he had a lot of stop and start booking, right? And he struggled to make a name for himself. with the limited opportunities that he got. And in 2024, they gave him opportunities, and he did not let them slip through his fingers at all. And then Liv Morgan's the last one I wanted to talk about. Liv Morgan is, in my opinion, the WWE's Superstar of the Year. Nobody had a better year than Liv Morgan. Nobody. And Liv Morgan not only had a great year, but she elevated herself into that great year. And she also just had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, right? Her big return was treated like a big deal at the Royal Rumble. Her involvement in the Elimination Chamber match, her involvement with Rhea Ripley after that, putting Rhea on the shelf, taking the world title from Becky Lynch, retiring Becky Lynch, at least for the time being, becoming the first ever Crown Jewel champion. Liv Morgan, every step of the way, has felt like a big deal. And I love that for her so very much. So I know this was a little bit of a longer video today, guys, but that was the WWE's Year in Review for the year 2024. We've recapped and ranked every single PLE, and we talked about a good handful of superstars that had just a breakout year. So that's going to be it for today. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more, and let me know in the comments what you agree with, what you disagree with. Like I mentioned earlier, let me know what you thought match of the year was, since that's the big thing that I didn't really break down in this video. Guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.